I haven't gotten it yet. No.
Yeah. No, I have not received the letter.
I have. You want me to get it?
Yeah, that's okay. I understand. So
Right now it's with Victoria and the Black Lake.
I can bring it over in a minute.
is there a space?
Okay,
I don't know if
7,
there's a
2,
space
get
in
moving.
Oh, that's Steve Brown, right?
Yeah.
Here's a,
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the, let's see, November 8th meeting, quarterly meeting of the Strafford Regional Planning Commission. And I believe you all have a copy of the agenda. If not, there's one, I think there's one over, where is the table this time?
we don't, they've all been handed agendas and all the commissioners
Okay,
have.
okay, so everybody's got a copy of the agenda. Okay, and we'd like to open up this evening with introduction, and first, and certainly not least, the members of the law enforcement community. Gentlemen, good evening. And then we'll start with members of the commission, and let's see.
Pete Brown from Wakefield.
Wakefield, okay.
Bob Jaff in Rochester.
Tom Crosby, Mabry.
Tony McMahon, Stover.
Brandon Anderson, Drum.
Lou Vita, Middleton.
Carol Vita, Middleton.
Sandy Keynes, Rochester.
Brian Tapscott, Somersworth.
Victoria Parmley, Northwood.
Marilyn Barton, Strafford Regional Planning Commission.
Michelle Mears, Strafford Regional Planning Commission.
Cynthia Copeland, Strafford Regional Planning Commission.
Very good. We got past that.
No, excuse me, we have the rest of
Oh,
the
I'm sorry.
staff.
Continental Strafford Regional Planning Commission.
Okay, welcome.
But the rest of the staff
Okay,
have- and the rest of the staff
The
have-
rest
Did we
of the
miss
staff.
Kyle? I'm sorry,
Dan.
Dan.
Dan Camara, Stratford Regional Planning Commission.
And,
Mark Imbrosi, Stratford Regional Planning.
okay. And,
Greg Jones, Stratford Regional Planning.
now we've got everybody.
We didn't get Tammy.
Tammy.
And Tammy.
Microphone, we, Tammy.
What? Tammy. You've got Tammy Butt. Okay. And we have somebody signing in over there. Are you from one of the communities, sir?
He is.
Durham. Okay.
He's a commissioner.
Yes, he's a commissioner.
Okay. Okay, moving along to the second item of business, that'll be communications. Any communications from staff? Cynthia?
Yes. All of the commissioners and the staff have received a copy of the parliamentary procedures at a glance. And this was recommended by Commissioner Tapscott from Somersworth, and they use it at all of their meetings. And so it has a nice little section where you can tell how to do different types of motions and point of order and amendments. So everyone has received one of those, and we hope that you find these useful. So that's the first item I have.
Excuse me, can you put your microphone on? Some of us don't hear very. Thank you.
The microphones don't work like that. This is recording microphone. All right, so I will do my best to
All right.
speak very loudly.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so we have developed a set of rules of procedures for our meetings, and we form two different functions, the Strafford Regional Planning Commission and the Metropolitan Planning Organization. And you all have received them in your packets, and our guests have also received these. So the meeting etiquette is as follows. Be present at the scheduled start of the meeting. Be respectful of the views of others. Ensure that only one person talks at a time. Raising your hand to be recognized by the chair is good practice, and I think Lou really likes that as chairman, to be recognized. Do not interrupt others or start talking before someone finishes. Do not engage in crosstalk. Avoid individual discussions in small groups during the meeting. When one person speaks, others should listen. Active participation is encouraged from all members. When speaking, participants should strictly adhere to topics of discussion directly related to the agenda items. Individuals should be brief and concise when speaking. So the Strafford Regional Planning Commission and Metropolitan Planning Organization holds both public meetings and public hearings. For public meetings, guests are welcome to observe, but should follow proper meeting etiquette, allowing the meeting to proceed uninterrupted. Members of the public who wish to be involved and heard should use venues such as citizen forum, public hearings, public comment periods, our outreach events, some of which we will be talking about tonight, seminars, workshops, and listening sessions. So that's what I have for that. And then we had quite a crowd at our September meeting, and we were very close to the capacity of the room. So I just wanted to let people know that the capacity of the room, as set by the Rochester Department of the Fire Department, is 70 people. And their exits are right there, and then as labeled, and then this door also you can go through if there's an emergency and make your way out to the main hall by the gym. We would ask that commissioners keep their questions until after the presentations have been made. So this evening we have, the first presentation is going to be from Michelle on our comprehensive economic development strategy. And the second one is going to be a Granite State Future, and I will continue to talk loud, and I hope you all can hear me, because I'll be doing that presentation. So thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia.
You're welcome.
Okay, item 2.2, other communications. Has the commission received any other communications from members or from outside sources?
No,
Okay.
some of the members might like to.
Anything from the members on, okay, moving right along. By the way, before we move on to the action item, I would ask that, do we have a quorum at this point?
No. No. We do not.
We do not. Then we want to postpone that, the adoption of the minutes of September, 27th until the next quarterly meeting?
Or,
Well, there's two choices per the bylaws. You can, if you feel it's essential business, you can vote with those here unanimously to go ahead with it, or you can wait until the next commission meeting in January.
or this person might still, we're expecting another person, right?
Okay.
No, not at this point.
Okay, so
What-
that, everyone who indicated they were coming is here, so we do lack a quorum by one.
Yeah.
Right, we're missing about, okay. To be, unless there is some reason why we cannot postpone adoption of the minutes of September 27th till the meeting in January, the quarterly meeting in January, is there a reason why we can't postpone? Okay, then why don't we move on, and so we do this correctly. Okay. Perhaps at this time, do I have a second more?
What?
Do I have a second more? I just want to go over some ground rules. You'll be hearing two presentations this evening, and Cynthia indicated all comments should be on either presentation should be held until after the conclusion of the second presentation. At that time, the chair will go around the room, starting with some arbitrary spot, and each person who has their hand up will be recognized for a 3-minute presentation. At 2.5 minutes, okay, to let you know that you have exactly 30 seconds before we wrap up on that presentation. The presentation will not continue past the 3-minute point. We will come back to you again if you have more to say, but this way everybody has a chance to speak, and we should be able to get everybody. Everybody should have a chance to be heard. On speaking, we've got to have decorum here. You know, any problem with you're talking to not just Cynthia, not to myself, but to all the commissioners here. And it's got to be done in a way which these commissioners can understand and not be repelled by or not be turned off by. And so there've got to be reasonable presentations, and they've got to be to the point. And I guess that's about it. So Cynthia?
Yes, we've set it up here so people can sit in the chair and the mic's there so that their comments will be recorded and everyone will be able to hear it.
Sounds good. Okay, now, Michelle?
And
Oh.
I just have one other, normally we allow the commissioners have a time to ask questions as well. When and the point would that be?
Okay, the commissioners can, there's 3 places. One, the commissioners can ask questions during and at the end of a presentation.
But
Go ahead.
we're not taking questions during the presentations.
No, no,
Oh, that
with
applies to the
us,
commissioners
with
as
us.
well?
Yeah.
Okay, then we, at the end of the presentation
Okay,
then.
all right.
Okay, and it's a nagging thought there, and I seem to have slipped. It'll come back to me.
Okay, so we're all clear.
Right, and I guess that's about it. You're on.
Okay.
Thank you for your patience.
As I said before, I'm Michelle Mears from Strafford Regional Planning Commission. I'm the project manager for the Strafford Regional Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. We're working on the 2011 to 2012 annual update, and currently it's on our website, the draft plan. Below are our partners. We receive funding from the Economic Development Administration. So here's our region, for the SEDS region. It's composed of 15 communities. Strafford County, Carroll County includes Brookfield and Wakefield. So what we do is we're trying to create a plan and a process that works on regional collaboration, trying to build regional consensus and evaluate progress over time. We're also trying to attract additional investment in the region and document success. Last year, we worked on the 2011 to 2016 5-year plan. So this is an update to that plan. So over the last 2 years, we've broken this down into phases. Phase 1 and 2 were in the 5-year plan. Currently, we're working on phase 3, which is on implementation and evaluation of the 5-year plan that we worked on. Cynthia, do you mind holding up the plan right there? This can be found on our website. It's a lengthy document. It's about, yeah. The Strafford Regional SEDS Committee is comprised of 12 individuals throughout the region, representing the private sector, the public sector, and nonprofits. Bob Jaffin actually serves on the Strafford Regional SEDS Committee, and he has worked really hard to come up with goals and objectives for this plan so that we can find ways to benchmark what's happening in the region. And we appreciate his support throughout this process. He's a dedicated member and comes to almost all the meetings. So we have pretty good representation throughout the region. Over the last year, we've had approximately 5 meetings, from October all the way to November. And this actually counts as a meeting, this commissioner's meeting. So what we developed was a vision for the region. The vision was to engage in collaborative networks to sustain and grow the region's economic vitality and median income through business development, job creation, enhancement of the tax base, educational excellence, and cultural and civic diversity, all within a historic place rich in recreational opportunity and natural beauty. There was 26 members at that time that helped develop this. There are 6 goals for the 5-year plan. Economic development, of course, is the most important goal. So one of the goals was to support the attraction, retention, and expansion of business as well as capital investment and employment in the region. Regional collaboration. Provide opportunities for regional collaboration and leadership in economic development among businesses, communities, institutions, governments, and other parties. Infrastructure. Expand access to the critical regional infrastructure of banking and finance, transportation, utilities, water, wastewater, and waste management. Resources and environment. Capitalize on built environment and natural resources through measures that protect, preserve, and manage and promote quality and an increasing diversity of resource usage. Workforce and entrepreneurial development. Support the development of education and training initiatives relative to business in the region. Provide quality education and training for residents and employees of all ages and disabilities. Quality of place. Improve the health and welfare of residents and workers in the area of wealth generation, human health and well-being, educational attainment, recreation, social services, and environment. So over the last year, workforce development has been happening in the region. One of the programs that is happening is a collaboration with the community college system of New Hampshire. It's a program called Ramp Up, and it's actually going to be located at the Lilac Mall to train employees specifically of Saffron and other advanced manufacturing groups. It's going to be an associate's degree that meets the industry needs for advanced manufacturing. And it's supposed to be starting spring 2013. So right now we're in year 1 implementation. Currently we've had 3 new projects submitted in May during the project solicitation process, which was a 30-day period that people could submit economic development projects to this plan. The town of Farmington submitted 2 projects, an economic development study on Route 11 and a water and sewer extension on Route 11. The city of Rochester also submitted 1 project on sewer and water extension on the Salmon Falls Road. These get compiled into the 5-year plan and are put into a priority project list based on short-term, mid-term, or long-term projects based within a 5-year period. The implementation process. This is what's happened so far. We're currently working on the submission of the annual update document to the Economic Development Administration for January 2013. This is a requirement in order for us to receive federal funds through the Economic Development Administration. We're hoping that in January 2013, at the next commissioners meeting, that we can adopt the plan. The annual update tracks progress towards meeting the region's economic and development goals, documents any changes in the regional economy, updates data, demographics, unemployment rates, layoff data from 2011 to 2012, poverty rates, median purchase prices on homes, foreclosure data, and tax rates. And we also work on the annual project solicitation process, and that happened May 2012. So accomplishments for this year, we had very little funding to do this, but the region submitted 3 grants to the Economic Development Administration from June 2011 to the present. We wouldn't have been able to go after these funds unless we had this 5-year plan. We presented at 4 outreach events. We presented to the Rotary, Rochester Rotary, Farmington Economic Development Committee, and at the commissioners meeting. And I can't think of the other one. We're continuing to develop the website. We're currently tracking goals and objectives. We're tracking data. And one of the biggest things is working on regional collaboration, bringing this region together to work on economic development. And we secured funds to submit an annual update to the EDA, which is a requirement of this process. This is the investment that's happened over the last year. That's the Saffron Albany project, the bridge project. This is at Wentworth Douglas Hospital. This is F.W. Webb in Dover. And this is Avis Goodwin. So this happened from August 1st, 2011 to the present. Currently, we're waiting on more photos to be submitted from the strategy committee, and we're working on outreach to get these photos in and to get an idea of how much investment has happened in the region. So the next steps that we'll be working on, we're going to hold the second public comment period from December 21st, 2012 to January 24th, which is the next commissioners meeting. This was to receive municipal economic development updates on what's happened in the cities, what's happened in the town of Barrington, what's happened in our SEDS region, so we can quantify the amount of investment that's happened. We're also hoping to adopt the annual update, the 2011 to 2012 annual update. The SEDS Strategy Committee is one of the committees that will be adopting this grant, along with the Strafford Regional Planning Commission commissioners. And we're hoping to do that at the January 24th meeting. And in January, we hope to submit this to the Economic Development Administration. In the next month, we will be reapplying for Economic Development Administration planning grant funding. It's due December 14th, 2012, for fiscal year 2013 to 2014. And we're going to keep working on this document. So thank you all, and thank you for those that participate in the SEDS committee. We're open to have new business owners or people participate in this process. And if you want any more information, you can email me. My email address is right there, and you can also look on the website. So.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay, and
Excuse me, could we just...
the second, I'm sorry.
Email address, I didn't catch it. One moment, thank you.
It's M.Auen, A-U-E-N, at Strafford.org.
Thank you.
And our phone number is 994-3500.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, moving along to the second presentation under item 4. Again, there'll be no questions on this till after the speaker has completed her presentation, and the presentation will be on Granite State Future, Local Solutions for the Strafford Regional, and it's being presented by Cynthia Copeland, our Executive Director.
All right, thank you. Good evening. I'm looking forward to this presentation. It's been a long time coming. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to back up a little bit because it was pretty apparent to me and to some other people on staff that not everyone is aware of who the regional planning commissions are and what our mandate is and where our authority comes from. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about how we came to be and what it is that the state statutes say that our function and responsibilities are. So you can see the first thing that we say is that we were established by state law in 1969 by the New Hampshire legislature. So a lot of what, if you see it underneath that, there's a parens and it says RSA 36, and then it has, I can't quite see it, but all the land use law is contained in this. There's the revised statutes annotated, and these contain the New Hampshire planning and land use regulations. And so what we're going to be talking about in the first part of this presentation is all contained within this book. Or you can go to the website and look for New Hampshire General Court and ask for land use, planning board functions, or regional planning commissions, and it'll take you right there. So either way, either getting a book like this, which you're planning boards should have, and your planning departments and your planning board and zoning boards should have. So we were established by state law in 1969 by the legislature. And you can see over there, there's 9 RPCs. And when it started, there were 17. And so the remnants of that process remained with our numbers. So we're right here, and we're number 7. And over time, we've been combined with Rockingham, and then split apart, and then combined again. But it's been an ongoing process. Since 1969, we've been in existence. We were a quasi-governmental agency, and in 2000, we became a political subdivision of the state. The next item down is really important. When you go and you read the RSAs, you'll find out that we're an advisory body only. So we don't permit, we don't regulate, and we don't enforce. And we're voluntarily formed by our member communities. So if you go into the sections and read about the RPCs under section 3646, it talks about the formations of the regional planning commissions and how it's based on the population of each municipality and how many representatives you get based on the population. So that gives you a general idea. So what are the functions of the regional planning commissions? The first one is to assist the local communities, the municipalities, with the development of their master plans. So in the 2000s, a lot of the work that we were doing was working under contract with various towns, helping them develop their master plans. The next part of what we do is local planning studies. For instance, right now we're doing a park and ride study with Central Regional Planning Commission and with Southwest. And so we've been very successful in our region with our park and rides, and so we're looking for where does the next set of park and rides go in the next 10 to 20 years, and how does that mesh with development and expansion in communities, where the growth is going, where the jobs are. So that's an example of the type of local planning study we do. We also facilitate, just like with the economic development, what it is, a primary function that we do is facilitating regional cooperation amongst the communities. So someone would like to do a corridor study which looks at the flow of traffic along Route 108, and Newmarket would like to do that. So we go to Durham and say, Durham, would you like to be involved in this project and do a corridor study? And they say, yes, no, we are interested, we're not interested, or we have this type of problem or whatever. And then we go forward from there and facilitate that kind of effort. Another aspect of what we do for facilitating is once communities get grants, particularly from the New Hampshire Department of Transportation, we work with the Department of Transportation and the local community to help anytime that there's misunderstanding or stoppage in workflow, that either at the state level or at the local level, they can call us and we can talk to the other parties and work out any miscommunication or not understanding what's going on in the process. So that's a lot of the work that we do, particularly in transportation planning. And then we develop our comprehensive regional plan. So this is a requirement within the RSAs in this book here. And this is our regional master plan, and it's called a comprehensive regional plan, a little different than what they call a master plan for municipalities. But it contains the same areas: transportation, land use, water, housing, economic development, etc., emergency management. And you can see a lot of the functions that we do here. Economic development, that's what Michelle does. Kyle does emergency management, the hazard mitigation plans. Michelle did the energy last year. Matt's working on broadband. Back in the corner there is our GIS with Dan and transportation modeling, and Mark does the transportation planning. And over there, Greg is working on transportation and land use. So he has quite a few different functions to help us. So you can see everything, our agency is derived around these functions that we're looking at. Oops, wrong way. Okay, so how does the regional master plan contents develop? Well, the first thing is we do a bottom up and a top down. So the top down is the state development plan. So in RSA 9A contains the information about what should be contained in the state development plan. And RSA 674-2, it describes in the statutes what a local master plan should contain. And the only one that's required, the only two that are required are the vision and the land use. But you can see that if you look at your town or your city's master plan, they'll be talking about various areas like housing. So one of the requirements that we're also required to do is a housing needs assessment. And we do that every 5 years, and the last one we did was in 2009. We do transportation planning, and so we've written transportation chapters for some of the communities that derive from our plan. So let's talk about what else do we do. Am I going the wrong way? Sorry. I'm left-handed. And you know, one of those backward slashes, well, that's a forward slash. That to me is a backward slash. So I hope I can get this right. All right, so what is the municipal role in this entire process? So the Regional Planning Commission needs to make a good faith effort to inform and respond to their local communities when developing the regional plan. So that's one of the things that we'll be doing, is reporting out to your planning board and telling them what we've found, what we're working on, areas where we're have concerns, we're not sure of whether it's applicable, or a policy or data, and just getting feedback from them. So this is us making a good faith effort to inform and respond. Once we have a draft document, we're required to post it at every library, planning board, and board of selectmen, aldermen, which we don't have over here, and city or town council. So when we have a draft document, you'll be able to find it in 3 locations in your community, and it'll also be on our website and in our office. We have an open comment period, and when we receive comments, we write responses to them, and we tell you how we respond to your comment, and that becomes an official part of our document. We hold a public hearing, and we provide a public notice 30 days before the hearing, and that is written up. We usually use Foster's, and we put it online, and we send it out in our email newsletter or an email alert, and I think some of you may be receiving those. The plans are adopted by the board here, the commissioners, and then it's filed. Once it's adopted, it's filed with each planning board in the region. The local planning board receives this document, and they can read it, they can adopt it in partially, they can cut and paste, they can do a complete adoption, they can ask us to look at their local master plan and ask what the relationship is between what we're recommending and advising. So there's a whole dialogue and conversation that can happen. But there's no action that has to be taken by a local planning board once they receive our document. It's advisory only. So in 2004, we did a master plan, and this is the 2004 master plan, and it has a lot of fact sheets and question and answer documents associated with it, as well as the entire document. And so we're actually updating this document that exists right now. So this is our 2004 adopted document, and right now it'll be about 10 years, because it'll be 2014 before we actually get to the point. This is a 3-year process that we're in. So we're in the third quarter of the first year. So 2014, it'll be 10 years. In your packet that you received, both the commissioners and the public, I put in the vision for the Strafford region and the regional policy goals. And the reason I did this is I wanted you to see that, yes, all the language looks very similar, because we're top down, bottoms up, and we're integrated. So when you do planning, you do integration. And so we share language, and we share policies and principles and strategies for achieving these. So that's just briefly about that. All right, so now we're going to talk about what everyone's really interested in, which is the Granite State Future. So as I described, this is from the RSA's 3645, and what it says is that every region has to prepare a master plan, and every 5 years you need to do an update. Or it does give you the option, if you wanted to do it more frequently, you could do that. So we're going to, I don't know anybody that's done it more frequently. So I know the communities, the towns, cities, I don't know anybody that updates their master plan more frequently than 5 years. So these are, for the Granite State Future, once we get into this, you'll see that the 9 regional plans that are being developed by the regional planning commissions in the state, they're all local plans. Every single one of them is going to be unique and different, because that's the way it is in New Hampshire. Everyone is unique, and every town's unique, every city's unique, and we understand and respect that. So as part of this process, we're developing 9 regional plans, and all of them will be unique to their region. But what we're going to share is we're going to share statewide data collection and coordination and resource coordination. So when we submitted to the Housing and Urban Development Department, we set up these master plan goals in our scope of work. So we said we were going to look at the goals were to protect New Hampshire's unique beauty and character. And I was telling Ed, our commissioner from Brookfield, that I was driving back from a meeting in Concord, and it was right in the height of the elections in October, and there was a national media person in New Hampshire, and he said he'd been at an event in Nashua, and he said, "It's a gorgeous day in the beautiful state of New Hampshire." And I'm driving back on Route 4, and I looked and I said, it is a gorgeous day in the beautiful state of New Hampshire. And so, people coming from outside and here, this is really important to us, the unique beauty and character of our state. Identify local assets that are important to the lasting prosperity of our communities, region, and state. And this is looking at community development and infrastructure and economic development. Capitalize on and incorporate shared values and opportunities included in existing plans and research, because we're always respectful of where we've been and where we are now. Plan for public infrastructure investment through an open and transparent process. That's just standard, basic public involvement for planning functions and for public service. Direct capital investments toward locally identified needs, and conserve our natural, social, and our financial resources. So here are New Hampshire's livability principles. And this is why I said this is important to talk about. And so I have a little thing, our project coordinator, Jen Ziz from Nashua Regional Planning Commission, gave me some information about the New Hampshire livability principles. So the context is to show you that the language and the background and the principles, the policies are all shared and start to combine. So when I came here in the late 90s, people were talking about sprawl. In the early 2000s, people were talking about smart growth. And then in the mid-2000s, they were talking about sustainable development. But essentially, all of the principles are really the same. So the New Hampshire livability principles are based upon the work of the New Hampshire Transportation and Land Use Roundtable. And this was convened by the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation. These livability principles represent a merger of the New Hampshire Smart Growth principles found in New Hampshire RSA 9. So those New Hampshire Smart Growth principles are connected to the state development plan. They're also a merger of the federal partnership livability principles, which we receive funding from Federal Highways Administration and Federal Transit Administration, from EPA, and from the Housing and Urban Development, and they all are in partnership together, so they have livability principles. And then, just as we've addressed, they come from the New Hampshire Municipal Master Plan, Regional Comprehensive Plan, and the State Development Plan, all from this book. So if things start to sound like they're integrated and overlapping, they are. It's a mixture of bottoms up, top down in a New Hampshire way. Okay, so what are these livability principles? So the first one is traditional settlement and design patterns, talking about housing choices, transportation choices, natural resources, functions and qualities, community and economic vitality, and climate change and energy efficiency. So how did we get the funding to do this project, to update our regional master plans? So all 9 of the regional planning commissions jointly applied for and were awarded a $3.37 million Housing and Urban Development Sustainable Communities Regional Planning Grant. Nashua Regional Planning Commission is the administrator of this project, and they have the responsibility to ensure that each regional planning commission complies with contractual requirements with respect to appropriate use of the funds and the completion of the work program. So for me, in public service in a regional planning commission, and I've also worked at every other level of government, this is normal operating procedures for us. We have to comply with our contractual agreements, what we've said we're going to do, and we have to use funds appropriately, and we have to complete things on time. Neither Housing and Urban Development nor the Nashua Regional Planning Commission has control over the final content of the regional plan adopted by Strafford Regional Planning or any other planning commission in this state. So when the commissioners consider adoption, they'll be doing it on its own merit relative to what the values and considerations are in this region. And by statute, each RPC alone has the authority to adopt their regional plan. So even though we're doing this project together, each of us has a unique product that will fit our region and our communities. All right, so what is the role of housing and urban development? This doesn't look any different than what I would see for a contract that we do for transportation planning from Federal Highways Administration through New Hampshire Department of Transportation. So they review our study design, and I'll be showing you that, and our work plan. So they review that and they give us guidance and make sure that it fits their funders' needs. They review and provide recommendations on the final report and study, and including final interpretation of study results. And Housing and Urban Development cannot mandate the content or interpretation of our work. And Housing and Urban Development may not require any change in the grantee's stated views, opinions, or conclusions. And then again, this statement down below is similar to every document when we get to the final stage. Whoever is funding our work, we normally have language similar to this, whether it's the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation, the Office of Energy and Planning, or one of the federal agencies. So this final draft document is published includes this statement that says the work that provided the basis for this publication was supported by funding under an award with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The substance and findings of the work are dedicated to the public. The author and publisher are solely responsible for the accuracy of the statements. That would be us. We're solely responsible for that. And interpretations contained in this publication. Such interpretations do not necessarily reflect the views of government. All right, here's the, excuse me for a second. So there's been questions on the partnership agreement. Housing and Urban Development asked everyone, excuse me, asked every applicant applying for funding to demonstrate support from local communities for regional planning. When we're applying for grants, this is a normal process that the funder requests. They want to know that if they provide funds for a project, that there will be local support for the project. And so they ask for a demonstration of support from our local communities for regional planning. So because this was a plan for the entire state of New Hampshire, 9 separate plans for the entire state of New Hampshire, there were letters of support from local communities, partners, and counties from all across New Hampshire. So during the grant application process, each of the regional planning commissions received letters of support from municipalities and from the partners, which you'll see later on include nonprofits and state agencies and private entities. Some of the letters of support contained a pledge to sign a memorandum of understanding to participate in the regional planning process if the grant was awarded. Some letters did not contain a pledge to sign a memorandum of understanding. It was acceptable either way. Later on in the process, the memorandum of understanding, or sometimes it's called a memorandum of agreement, became named the partnership agreement. So this was a request for, and then we went and had a request for participation from local municipalities. So what does the partnership agreement ask of municipalities? The partnership agreement states that towns and cities, and also the nonprofits and state agencies and private entities, will help develop a regional vision, policies and strategies, and prioritize identified implementation measures. The signing was not mandatory for inclusion in the regional master plan process. So a community does not need to sign a partnership agreement in order to be included in the planning process for our region. So no financial, staff time, or other commitment nor an obligation to adopt or implement any of the ideas, goals, or implementation items identified in the final regional plan. There's no mandate for any of that. All right. Let me take So now we're going to talk about regional plan work to date. Our current work that we're working on, we're compiling existing plans, demographics, and statewide statistics. We're going to talk about this a bit later in another slide. We've been doing, over the last 6 months, a lot of coordinating with state agencies, and I see some of the people that we're working with are here. Some of our partners at the statewide level are here. We're coordinating with them and with other statewide organizations. We've been engaging local officials and residents, and we'll be talking about that. And we've identifying and prioritizing infrastructure and other implementation projects. And I think primarily that's been happening in Southern Regional Planning Commission, which is a little further ahead than the other regional planning commissions. So this shows year one. This is a 3-year project, and this is our project scope and timeline. So, up at the top, can you read that? Sure, that would be great. So I'm going to let Matt talk about it, and I can take a break with my voice for a second.
Okay, so this is our project scope and timeline to date. The intent here wasn't for you to be able to read it in the audience because it was difficult to get the whole first year project scope on the screen, obviously. We'll actually be going through each of these. This is the first category, second, third, and fourth. Oops. These categories in the next couple slides, but they're basically our outreach work to date, some data gathering that we're doing, some regional pre-plan development, and also some work on the statewide level with those partners we were talking about before on our technical advisory subcommittees, and we're doing a lot of data gathering and metric identification at that level as well. So this obviously wasn't intended to be read, but it's just this is a staff work timeline that we've been using. This is just for the first year, and we're right on task really at this point in the project.
Yeah, so if you come into our office and you walk down the hallway, we're right over there, our offices, you'll see that we have this blown up in a big huge 3-foot by 3-foot, 2-foot charts, and you can walk down the hall and you wait to get a cup of coffee and look over and see where we are and check in and see, are we making progress. So data gathering. Our current status is we've been working on the statewide data team coordination, and that's Matt. He's our representative to that. Oh, and I should say, I'm sorry I didn't say who on our staff is working on this project. So Michelle is working on the project, and she's on the equity and engagement technical advisory subcommittee, and Kyle is on the same subcommittee and then Matt's on the traditional settlements, and Marilyn, where are you? She was on traditional settlements, and we're moving staff around, and Marilyn's going back full-time to you working on transportation planning, and Greg Jones over there is going to be picking up work on he's doing a lot of work on master plans that we'll be talking about. So those are our team members and myself. So there's 5 of us working on this project in the office. It's a major undertaking. So this sounds really technical. So we're data geeks, and this is what we do. We're identifying metrics. We have to measure everything. In order to receive funding now, you have to have benchmarks and performance measures and figure out how you're making progress and evaluate it. We're looking at gaps in our data, analyzing that. We're doing red line metric, what does that mean?
Red line metrics are basically deficient pieces of data, so areas that our region isn't doing well in that others in the state may be doing well in. That's basically what red line means, deficient metrics.
And the last thing we're doing is we're creating an e-logic model for Regional Planning Commission use. We already, if you looked at the SEDS document, we already had a logic model that we developed, and that's what Bob Jaffin worked really hard with us on, helping us to do our logic model for the comprehensive economic development strategy. And so we're pretty comfortable with that, and I'm hoping that it's easier to do the second time. The next area that we're looking at is our regional pre-plan. So we're in pre-plan development right now, and this is actually what Greg's been working on. So we're doing an analysis of every master plan in the region, and that includes all 18 master plans, municipal master plans, but also the University of New Hampshire has just approved their master plan, and so we do an evaluation of that. So we're establishing a baseline for visioning and planning efforts, and we're extracting each of the master plan policy statements. We did this once before for a grant in 2000 from EPA, and so we have a comparison of where we were in 2000 and where we're going to be in 2012 through 14. So Greg will take Somersworth. We're working on Somersworth right now, right? They've just done a really nice policy master plan. It's not very big, and it's a really excellent master plan, and we're going through every single policy statement and pulling it out and then putting it into one or two or three. It could be in multiple categories there, and so that's the process we're in right now, and we should be done sometime in December with that. As I said earlier, we have technical advisory subcommittees which are meeting on the state level, and Matt and Marilyn were working on the traditional settlement patterns, and there's a housing and transportation, natural resources, etc. you can see, and then Michelle and Kyle are working on equity and engagement. So here's our partners. Here's some of the partners on this page. New Hampshire Transit Association, a lot of state agencies here. HEAL is providing us that's healthy eating, active lifestyles. They've provided funding for us to do some work on developing strategies for healthy eating and active lifestyles. And then here's some other ARP. We're working with ARP. There's some private companies here. New Hampshire Charitable, New Hampshire Catholic Charities, Nature Conservancy, so that gives you an idea. And then we have a regional advisory team, and one of our executive committee members, Victoria Parmalee from Northwood, has volunteered to be the chair of this committee, and so the advisory team has a role, and their function is to advise the staff and help us stay on track and guide regional use of statewide policies. So they're the ones that tell us, oh no, this really isn't going to fit. This won't work here. That's not a concept or a vision that fits. They provide recommendations to our advisory teams. We'll be soliciting people to work with us on traditional settlements, housing, all those areas that you saw. And so if you're interested in volunteering and you have some expertise or interest in this, we're looking for people to be part of our regional technical advisory teams. And then they will present the final draft. Victoria will get to stand up here and present the final draft. I'll stand by with you. And so this will be in 15, not 14. All right, so outreach today. So September 22nd, Matt and Kyle went to the Newmarket Heritage Festival and spent the day over there. You can see Kyle had this great idea and concept on how to attract people and get draw people in so we could start a conversation. And so you can see in the background there, you can, this, what's your future vision? So on the outside we have state and region and home, and there's little stickies, and so people come by and we ask them the question similar to what's on those listing boxes, which we'll be talking about. What do you like about living here? What's important to you? What could make it better? You know, what's important to you? And so we just put these up for illustration, but you can see these are the comments that we got. So the lighter pink ones are things that could be better. For instance, in Newmarket, a lot of people have ties to Durham, to the university, and so one of the comments is Wildcat Transit needs to provide full year service. So when the school's not in session, there is no service. Excuse me. So what we're doing right now during our outreach is we're collecting values. We're asking people, what do you like? What's important to you? How can we make this better? On Apple Harvest Day, this was in Dover, and Michelle and Marilyn did Apple Harvest Day, and they had a fantastic time. Of course, we're the home of the University of New Hampshire, and so, you know, here's our wonderful UNH family, 2 generations, and so this was really nice. We're all excited. Our commission is very supportive of the stay, work, play concept, and so we have a policy, a human resources practice to hire young grads from University of New Hampshire or people who are New Hampshire residents and may have gone to school out of state, like Matt, and then come back home and want to have a place to work. So we're very much dedicated to making sure that the next generation has a place to work and develop a career. It's very important to us. So here's the comments here, and you can see in Dover, parking is an issue. And then what's surprising to us that we really picked up, and why I talked about the natural beauty thing, is how many comments we're getting from people that talk about how wonderful it is to live here. I think on this one it's because there's 4 seasons, because you can get to Boston, Portland, because you can get to the mountains, you can get to the ocean, you can go skiing. There's a huge emphasis on recreation and the natural beauty of the area. And it's been surprising to us. We didn't think that would be one of the characteristics that would come up as a common theme for our region. And then on October 18th, we went over to the Field House in Durham, and the Seacoast Business Expo was all of the chambers of commerce. So we got to, so the first 2 events were primarily families that we were talking to, and the second event was business people who came to network. And so I like the one down here, the region needs more high-paying jobs. And then some of the comments that I brought up about enjoys that this area has 4 distinct seasons and, you know, traveling different places. So everywhere we go, you can see that we have this. And we had a raffle item and had very good, they were there 3 hours and they had over 200 people that they spoke with. And then we catalog all of our outreach events, and they go onto an Excel spreadsheet, and we catalog the location and what people said and when it was said. And so I just needed to say 2 more things that Matt was supposed to remind me that I couldn't forget. So the first thing is the listening boxes. Another part of our outreach are these listening boxes, which are out throughout the region, and I'll just I'll pass around a couple of these. And so we'd love it if you fill out. So here it is. It says Granite State Future wants to hear from you. What is best about this area? Do you live, work, visit, or seasonal? What could make this area even better? And then you can sign up, and then there's a little promo about this. So. And these are all throughout the region right now, and we've been moving them around. And the Rochester City Hall was one of our best places that we had a whole lot of comments from, and it's been the best place so far. So thank you. If you're from Rochester, you guys did a great job filling this out and giving us some good feedback. And the second part is right now we're collecting values. And in this, the next part that we'll be doing is we'll be looking at collecting places that you like. What is it that's important to you in regards to, is it shopping in downtown Dover? Is it kayaking on the Cochito? Is it hunting on one of the lakes, you know, for duck hunting this time of year? What is it that places that are really important to you? And the last one, I imagine all of you will be interested in. The last phase of comments and outreach that we'll be collecting will be on what are your priorities? How do we spend our resources? How do we spend our financial resources? All right, so Matt.
So to close the presentation, I just wanted to show everyone something that on a statewide level we've been working very, very hard on and just finished. This is our grants. I'm just going to sit here kind of and show you guys our Granite State Future website that we've worked on. And we're using this as an outreach tool because we're actually able to collect outreach through it, and also obviously as a marketing device for the project. And I'll take us to that website right now and give you a brief little tour of what we've done there. Okay, so this is the Granite State Future homepage. In this area right here, these are actually comments that people have submitted through this Share Your Idea tool right here. So if you visit the website, you have the ability to enter in a comment. The questions are actually the same as the questions that are on the comment cards, or very similar actually. And they ask you, do you live in this area? Do you work in this area? Do you live and work in this area? What could you make better about the region? What would you change? What are some things that are really good? What are some things that maybe aren't so good? So that's really the kind of input we're collecting at this phase of the project. Further down the page, you actually have the ability to find our meetings, statewide meetings, and also some information about the outreach events that we're doing within the region, and also that other regional planning commissions are doing in other regions around the state. And we have a Google Calendar here that shows those meetings in a more graphically pleasing format. So if you're not sure what you're looking for, you can look at our information for our regional plan. How you do that is you're going to click on Strafford region right here. And if you're not sure, you'll probably see where your community is on this map. This is our regional page on the statewide website. Just some brief information about the project, a lot of which Cynthia has covered tonight. A little bit of some different stuff about how you can get involved. Some event photos that we actually showed during this presentation. And also some information about the outreach events we've done, and we're looking for new outreach events to be doing during the winter, spring, and summer of next year. And obviously there are other regional websites right here in the left-hand side. If you visit this Get Involved tab, you can find those meetings, and then you can also add your idea. And if we click here, again, you'll be asked where you live, whether you live and work here, visit here, whether you're a seasonal resident. Then you do answer these questions. And what happens is these answers get submitted to, I'll show you just one moment here. So let's say I'm a Rochester resident, but I want to see what other folks have been saying about Rochester. So I'm going to go to this drop-down menu right here, navigate down to Rochester. So the answers, as you can see in green, are things that are best about the area, and in black are what could be better about the area. And we've actually received a considerable amount of responses. We'd like to have more. We'd like to hear from all of you. And we actually go in and read these comments pretty frequently, and these are something that would be included in our master plan in the public outreach section at the very end. What you also have the ability to do is, rather than searching for a location, you can actually search for an issue on a statewide level. So let's say transportation. I want to search for transportation. I want to know what people are saying all around the state about this. So I'll submit it. And you can see that there are quite a few answers about transportation. And you'll also notice that most of these answers are black, meaning that they are things that could be better about the state. So that's a really interesting trend that we see here on this little website. Also in the future, this is kind of a coming soon feature, we're going to have some news stories on here, maybe some blog stories from people that are involved with the plan. Look out for that in the future. Also visit our Facebook page. This is actually a compilation of what regional planning commissions have been doing for work to date. This is a statewide thing again. We actually, I think in the office, hope to have our own Facebook page going maybe in the next 6 months to a year, but that takes some time. We'll be working on that. And these are different comments. People have commented about what we're doing. There are some photos on here of outreach events that other regional planning commissions have done. Some related to the actual work, some related to a little bit of fun, like these pictures over here. But this is a really, really nice feature that we have by using Facebook. So please visit this website, share your idea, and we'll have a look at it when we're doing our regional plan.
The last slide.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia.
You're welcome.
Okay, we noticed that there were a couple of people who came in after the presentation started, so just to make sure everybody knows the ground rules, we're talking about a 3-minute presentation made from the table. After you give your name and your social security number, name and your hometown. At the 2 minutes and a half, the flag will go up, meaning you have 30 seconds to complete your presentation, and we'll move on to the next presenter. We will come back again. If somebody wants to talk 2 times in a row, well, that's 2 times, and they have to wait for the everybody else to speak before them. All questions and comments shall be to the chair. Tammy?
Sorry, could I just leave the sign-in sheet over here, so if anybody hasn't signed in, and you can sign in up here at the table?
Thank you. Thanks.
All questions and comments will be to the chair. Okay? The commission members can respond or not to any questions or to comments from the audience. All responses shall be made to the chair. All those wishing to speak shall be recognized by the chair. And finally, we're ready to go. Okay? So, we're now in item 5, which is citizens forum. Anyone who wishes to speak, please come forward.
Could we just have your name, sir?
My name?
You're the chairman, right?
Yes,
Yes.
Lou Vita, and I
Thank you.
represent the town of Middleton.
Thank you, nice to meet you.
Are there
Cynthia?
any questions from the commissioners?
I'm sorry.
Are there any questions from the commissioner?
They can, on the presentation, or on the 2 previous presentations,
Yeah.
if you
Remember
wish,
we discussed that?
if they wish.
But, yeah. No, okay.
Chairman,
Ed?
Ed Camo from Bloomfield. May I ask the question directly to Cynthia Copeland?
Prior to the chair.
Okay. I wanted to know who authorized the National Regional Planning Commission to go to the federal government to receive the regional planning grant? Who authorized them to go? Whose idea was it to?
Cynthia?
Oh, it was the, it was the New Hampshire Association of Regional Planning Commissions meet somewhat regularly, more than quarterly during the year, but not monthly. And the Regional Planning Commission executive directors meet monthly. And it was a combination of those 2 entities that decided together to apply for this grant, and Nashua stepped forward to take the leadership on it. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Any other questions? Ed?
Mr. Chair, there was no talk of what I've heard an equity team is, and I wanted the kind of a definition or a description of what that is and how it plays with Granite State Future agreement.
Someone wishing to speak to that? Michelle?
So, currently we're working with the equity team, and it's a group of people that were identified throughout the state New Hampshire Catholic Charities was one of them. New Hampshire DHHS, HEAL.
Healthy Eating Active Lifestyles. It's a nonprofit.
It's a nonprofit, yeah. Who else?
The Institute of
UNH Institute of Disability. We reached out to veterans, but we couldn't get a response from those groups. We also are working with somebody that serves on New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority. Yeah, and we're also working with somebody from DHHS that works on refugees and minority populations in the state. Refugees and minority populations in the state.
And who's that?
I don't know her name exactly.
Oh, DHHS. Is it DHHS?
Yeah, you can look it up. Yep.
So this is the Technical Advisory Committee, and Michelle's been doing the minutes for this statewide Technical Advisory Committee. And when they have a meeting, they go up on the website, correct?
Cynthia, up
Yes.
this way, please.
When you have a meeting, it goes up on the website, and Michelle does the meeting notes.
Yeah.
And then she puts the notes up, and so everyone can see the agenda. They're open to the public, and the meeting notes go up online. And Michelle is actually responsible for that committee to do the meeting notes. She volunteered to do it. So
UNH Cooperative Extension is also a part of it. New Hampshire Listens is also a part of it. And the Carsey Institute. So.
Thank you, Michelle. Any other questions from the commission?
Mr. Chairman.
Ed?
My next follow-up question about the equity team is, who formed the team and what's the purpose of the teams?
Anyone to respond to that?
Yes.
Michelle?
It was part of the grant application. It was listed in the grant application as a requirement of HUD to have an equity team to try and serve underserved populations throughout the state that we don't usually reach out to in the planning process.
Mr. Chair.
Ed?
Mr. Chair, who formed them? Who formed the equity team? And what's the purpose of it? What's the purpose of it?
Who formed the equity teams? National Regional Planning Commission.
I serve on the executive committee, so
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I serve on the executive committee, and the executive committee is the project administrator, Jen Ziz, from Nashua Regional Planning Commission. She works full-time on it, and the 9 Regional Planning Commission executive directors. And together, we pulled together the resources from partners who had volunteered to be part of this process, and people who said, I'd like to be involved in it, or I have something to offer and to be a part of it. So it was the way things are done in New Hampshire. You know, everyone's volunteers, and people said they'd be a good resource. So it was, who do you know that works in this area that would be a good resource to be on this? And so you hear the same name a couple of times, 3 times, and then you make a call and you see whether they're interested and they have time to do it, and that's how we went forward. Some of them are official partners in the grant, and
Most of them are.
yeah, most of them are official partners in the grant. So when you saw those 2 slides that had the official partners on it, those form the core of who are on the various statewide technical advisory committees. And the purpose of it was just what she said, was to ensure that people who are underrepresented in the planning process and into decision-making have a chance to have their voice heard and their concerns and their issues.
Thank you. I see a hand up over here. No, I'm mistaken. Over here. Any other questions? Okay. That's the end of the questions on the two presentations, I believe, unless someone wants to add. Okay. Moving on to citizens forum. Yes, what? Ed.
I have a few more. I thought I was going to give
Oh,
somebody
okay.
else
Go
a
ahead.
chance.
No, you might guess.
My next question would be, I hear of a form called the Housing, Urban, and Development 1044 form. What is this form, and who fills it? I don't know what this is. Does anybody have any information on it?
No, I don't, but duly noted, and I will look it up. Is it,
Ed.
Mr. Chairman, do we know who the TLU is?
TLU?
Yes.
Could you define the acronym?
I think that you're referring to the Transportation and Land Use Roundtable, and that was the group that was convened by the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation.
Ed.
Can you briefly describe to us what the HUD's strategic mission is? What is their mission in this?
Housing and Urban Development's strategic mission in this, I cannot give you, but I could go to their website just like you could, and we'll look it up together and compare notes. But I imagine it has to do with helping communities develop regional plans. I mean, that's the core. Every funder who goes out with a program for grant funds has a mission, has strategies and goals they want to achieve, and so they're looking for grantees that match up with their goals and help them be successful as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything further? Okay. Okay, then we will now move on to citizens forum. You will please step up and give your name. We have to speak from here. Please step up, give your name, town you represent, and you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, Martha Titcomb, Salem, New Hampshire. I have to be there. Oh, okay. I'm really unclear about the source of authority for any of this. Could somebody explain it to me?
She's unclear about the source of authority.
So, what was your name?
Martha Titcomb.
Martha, your question was about the source of authority for the sets or the Granite State Future?
For the what?
The Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy was the first presentation, and my
Oh, no, for
presentation.
yours.
Ma'am, your comments to the chair.
Oh,
Okay.
well, sure.
I was asking
Okay.
for, Mr. Chair, excuse
okay.
me,
Go
I was
ahead.
asking for clarification. Because we did have 2 presentations, and I was hoping that there'd be some questions for Michelle, because she's
I
done
was
a
late, I'm
great
sorry.
job.
Yeah.
So just like in the first part of the presentation when I was talking about
Yes.
our authority, so can you pull that up for me, please? So this is why I brought the book, because I wanted...
That was great, yeah.
this is where our authority comes from.
Okay.
It derives from the New Hampshire legislature, and we started in 1969. So right there it says we were established by state law in 1969. And the next slide was, these are the functions that they set out. And if you go into the purposes, so Mr. Chairman, if you go to chapter 36 on regional planning commissions, 3645 is purposes, and it says the purposes of the subdivision shall be to enable municipalities and counties to join in the formation, and whose duty shall be mandatory, shall be to prepare a coordinated plan for the development of a region, taking into account present and future needs with a view towards encouraging the most appropriate use of land, and then it goes on and on and on for several sentences. So that is the primary source of our authority for this.
One moment.
This
Victoria.
is a public comment section, so I'd appreciate if you'd make your comments. I'm sorry that you were late, but we have a meeting that we're trying to run here, and we want to hear from the public, and there are a lot of people here.
Maybe
I don't mean to
do
be
you have
rude.
a question?
I do. Do I ask you?
Yes.
Okay, being a lifelong resident of New Hampshire, I've never heard of that before. And I was wondering if you could explain to me why I'm just hearing about it now.
Okay, one moment. Is there anyone want to rise to the question?
It just came out.
Cynthia.
I listen to her. Chairman? Okay.
I'm not really sure.
Okay, that's fine.
If you have been involved with a function of your town, you're from Salem, correct? So if you had been, this is a town, so if you had been involved with the planning board, the conservation commission, the zoning board, a master plan committee, the historic district, I think you would be familiar with the regional planning commissions.
Does it, Mr. Chairman, does it have anything to do with workforce housing?
It does. But again, Cynthia can speak to it more eloquently than I can.
Does this directly have to do with workforce housing? Only in the sense that we're considering all housing options for the state. So we have a regional housing needs assessment that was done by Bruce Mayberry in it was adopted by this commission in 2009, and we don't talk much at all about workforce housing in that document because that's not a function of our regional housing needs assessment. The housing needs assessment is to give a general overall state of what is the housing in this region, is it affordable, where is the affordable housing located, and in effect our region is one of the more affordable regions in the state.
Mr. Chairman, could you tell me why this hasn't been presented, why it's being presented as an overall? It seems that it's top down, it's coming this way. New Hampshire has a strong tradition of local government, and I was wondering why it didn't start at the local government level.
So actually, Mr. Chairman, what I was trying to describe this evening and was the fact that it was an integrated top-down, bottom-up function. So right now, Michelle and Kyle are working on a task force at the statewide level. Kyle and Marilyn had been working on a statewide level task force, and Greg is doing the bottoms up. So we're doing both at the same time. So our whole regional plan will be based on two different functions. The data and policies and plans at the state level in consideration, equal consideration with the local plans and policies and goals, with the regional advisory committee being the local experts who will look at the statewide policies and data and say, this works, this doesn't work for our region. You know, your issue is workforce housing. Workforce housing may be something that's not appropriate for our region because we have an abundance of rental housing in several of our communities, such as Somersworth, Dover, Durham, and Newmarket. So we're unique entities, each of the regions, and it's the towns and the staffing and the volunteers in the towns and cities who will tell us how this merges from the statewide functions, which are also mandated, and the local functions which are also mandated. And so it's a combination and discussion on how that works best for the state.
I guess, Mr. Chairman,
As a
my time's
whole.
up, is that right?
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next speaker, please. Okay, gentleman back there with his hand up in a plaid shirt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome.
My name is Chris Skoglund. I'm a resident of Durham, New Hampshire, and have been so for 3 years. I lived in Dover and Newmarket for a total of 4 years before that, and spent 20 years in Hampton Falls as a child. I spent a small amount of time in California and Washington, D.C. before moving back to New Hampshire because, as Dorothy once said, there's no place like home. And I'm here today to speak in total support of the Granite State Future. I came back here to raise my family, and it's a very different New Hampshire than the one that my parents grew up in. Both of my parents were born here. The New Hampshire that my parents lived in was largely a rural state, and energy was cheap. The weather was something you could rely on, and you tended to know your neighbors because they had been next to you for your entire life. Since that time, our state population has nearly doubled, with much of that growth occurring in both the Strafford and Regional Planning Commissions. So along our coastal areas, the population now is growing older, and as my parents' generation nears retirement, they're looking for ways to stay in their homes as they grow older. Energy costs have skyrocketed, and the extreme weather events such as ice storms, windstorms, October snowstorms, and floods are now on an annual basis knocking out power to tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people every single year. This has been a major disruption to my family that continues to live in the Seacoast area, as well as my own family, where we've been trapped in our home for over 20 days in the past 3 years alone without power. Fortunately, we have a wood stove. So in the past, while communities were capable of managing their issues, the issues of today are not something that a single community can plan for. We do not have control over our energy. The population is growing New Hampshire's population was growing at a faster rate than any other state in New England up until the recession began. So we have unique pressures here in the state, and it's not something that an individual community may necessarily be able to manage. For instance, I may sleep in Durham, but my children go to an in-home daycare in Barrington. I go grocery shopping in Lee. I work out in Lee. My wife works in every single community in Strafford and Regional Planning Commission because she travels from one school to the other. My wife jokes that while in Washington, D.C., we were 5 minutes from everything, in New Hampshire, we have to drive 25 minutes to get to whatever we need. Very good. So the issues of this magnitude require collaboration and cooperation, and I see the Granite State Future as an initiative that is designed to tackle these initiatives and do so in an open and transparent manner where citizens such as myself will get to share my vision for what a healthy and strong region will look like into the future so that my children can continue to live here and enjoy the New Hampshire that I have throughout my life. So I'd like to thank the Srpc and all the Srpcs for their work to get these resources that our communities can rely on so that we can plan for the future that we all hope to get. So I would encourage all of the commissioners to put their full participation in and support the staff.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is that you, Lou?
Okay. Next speaker. Gentleman in the back in a green jacket.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Would you please come forward?
Well, you walked into the room, you can walk another 30 feet. No.
There is a little bit of background noise. It'd be better if you came forward. That way you can also get your comments on the tape.
He walked all the way into the room, he can get another 30 feet.
Yeah, come a little bit closer. Yes.
Can you come closer?
Lou, no, we need to, Lou, Mr. Chair, we need to accommodate.
Can you pick this up on the tape, though?
No, it's a reasonable
I have
accommodation.
2 questions, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind.
Sir, go ahead.
During the presentation, I noticed that Executive Council, state senators, and state representatives were not considered part of the input package for this planning. We have the agency partners, the state agency partners, the pay-to-play partners. your federal Corps, your HUD, EPA, and DOT, but I didn't hear if the executive council or state senators or state reps are elected folks who are part of this planning process.
Okay, you have two questions, you said?
The second question, sir, is since receiving megabucks from HUD and EPA and DOT, federal agencies have direct input into planning as well as mandatory outcomes that must be incorporated into state policy. This violates state sovereignty.
Cynthia, did you get those questions?
Yes, I did.
Good, okay. Your name again, please, and town?
Chuck Pearson, Barrington.
Thank you. Okay, does someone want to respond to the two questions? Cynthia?
On the first question,
Elected officials.
He's particularly named the state legislatures and the executive council. As part of our transportation work, we, as part of the Governor's Advisory Council on Intermodal Transportation, we do work regularly with the executive council as part of what is called as an acronym, the GASSET hearing. So this particular project does not have direct involvement with the executive council, but state legislators and executive council members are always invited to our events and are welcome, and sometimes they ask to meet with us in regards to certain projects that they have interest in. So they are, elected officials are part of the process, and there are several people sitting on the commission who are elected officials. So we do our best. We do have events, the regional planning commissions, where we do have outreach for the state legislatures, and I think our two commissioners from Middleton were both participants in that event over several years at the State House. So the second question, input and mandatory outcomes. I think I addressed this during my presentation in regard to that a grantor has, when they put out a grant application process, they let people know what their goals are and what their priorities are, and then Housing and Urban Development was looking at helping communities, counties, towns to prepare combinations of in regional areas, combining more like metro areas, to prepare regional plans. And so we are very much accustomed with every grant and contract that we receive, whether it's from a nonprofit or a town or a city or a state agency or a federal agency, is that there is a scope of work, there's a timeline, and there's contractual language contained. That's business, normal business procedures for what we do. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I could say. Most of our contracts are through state agencies, through the Department of Environmental Services or the Department of Transportation, Office of Emergency Management at Department of Safety, correct? Yeah.
Thank you. Any comments from the commission? Okay, moving ahead. Young lady in the pink sweater.
Close enough.
Okay.
I just
Salmon?
want to
Salmon.
address what they're talking about.
Okay.
My
Your
name is Nancy Kindler.
Okay.
I live in Epping. I have a son that owns a house in Rochester. He can't be here tonight, so I'm here for him. kind of addressing what the gentleman asked about the legislature earlier. I would like to ask all the people here on this body and everybody related to it to have a meeting where they invite our state senators, our state representatives, our executive council, and the full body of our legislature, because I know most of them personally, Democrats, Republicans, all of them. I know quite a few on both sides who have no idea what's going on. They're in the dark. They haven't got a clue. And when it takes a layperson like myself to try to educate them and tell them what websites to go to and show them where listening boxes are and show them all kinds of paperwork that I have been compiling for months, it's pretty scary. Now, we've got people that have been in planning boards in different cities and towns for a long time doing quite well. Epping's an example. We just started to pay dues. Well, we won't start to pay dues till January. It was voted on a couple weeks ago to pay to the Rockingham Planning Commission. Prior to that, the planning board in Epping did quite well. It's thriving, it's growing. We're going to have a new movie theater, all kinds of shopping, housing. We have amenities that are quite suitable to the area. Maybe some cities and towns need more things than others, maybe aren't doing as well as others are doing. I think we all need to learn more about what's really going on. I think our legislators who are going to make the decisions for us are the ones that need to know. I had a lot of questions to ask, but after that gentleman spoke, it made me realize I've been, every week at least, what's going on? What did you hear? When's the next Granite State Futures meeting? When's the 108 Scenic Byway meeting? When's the one, the National Regional Planning Commission meeting? My husband and I go to them all. And the gentleman sitting back there who's losing his tree farm, or might, in Henniker, because of what's going on. We need the legislature to be involved. So, I guess I've said enough. I want to have other people have time. I implore you, and it's being videotaped. So I'm loud enough that the videotape behind me and the microphone is going to pick up the fact that I implore you to get the legislative body to have a special meeting where you will explain all this to them in detail.
You won't be able to miss that.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, gentleman there with the hat on. Please come up, identify yourself, town you're from, and...
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the committee. My name is Derek McMillan Kittredge, better known as Matt Kittredge. I'm a former air defense programmer and systems analyst. I know something about managing complexity with adverse consequences. Part of my objection to this process is not that I question the good intentions of the people running it. You can't have too much information. The real question comes, can you apply the information? Because to collect information without implementing it, or having a process by which you implement it, and pay for that implementation, or gather enough people to do it on a volunteer basis, is an exercise in futility. Moreover, as Nancy pointed out before, the legislature actually does get involved in planning. They've got a lot of different committees, as you, Lou, and you, Carol, know. And they talk about these things in detail. Now, what we have here is a wish list. What we have here is a wish list, and wish lists are handy. And every January 1st, I put together a wish list where I check off all the things that I'm going to do. And you know what? Life intervenes on an awful lot of it. Now, that doesn't mean I shouldn't have goals and ambitions and take assessment of my life. Nor should you in this committee pass on the opportunity to take an assessment of what's happening in our community. But I would like to reinforce the idea that if this is purely advisory, then the people to be advised are the members of the general court, the members that are elected to the city councils, and you have partners, and you're talking to them, and I applaud you for that. But a lot of these things that you have as a wish list, if they are implemented, will have consequences that are financial and inconvenient to a lot of people. My point is this. There's such things as mission impossible, notwithstanding your good intentions. You're talking about a very large, you got 30 seconds? Okay, thank you. We're talking about a very large scope of information, of objectives, and I don't see very much in here in terms of how we're going to implement it. And I don't see the purpose of duplicating what the state and the county and the cities and the towns do for themselves. I believe, as John Stossel does, in the natural organization that comes from people interacting on specific projects. This country is full of volunteer organizations that take on things like cancer and breast cancer and everything else. And a lot of your partners are those organizations. It's too big. Well intended, but too big. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Okay, let's see. How about the gentleman with the beard back there?
Mr. Chair, committee members, I've done a little studying on this issue.
Point of order.
I'm sorry, you didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't say my name.
No, you
sorry,
didn't.
I thought it was Mr. Beard. Jerry DeLamus, I'm out of Rochester, New Hampshire.
Okay.
I've done a little studying on this issue that's before all of us, is whether or not Strafford County wants to sign on to the Granite State Futures. Part of my concern is what I have seen of this and around the state, because I have traveled around the state somewhat and watched what's been going on, is you have the federal government coming through the HUD, EPA, and DOT into Nashua. They signed a contract with Nashua. So now HUD, DEP, and the EPA say that, DOT and EPA say that they have no control over the individual communities. But that's actually a little bit of a deception, because what they do is they reach through Nashua, who is running the Granite State Futures, who is a signed contractee with the federal government. Nashua, when you sign a contract with Nashua, then you are a member of that group. And some of all that information, those requirements that are piling down from Washington onto Nashua by signing that agreement, then trickle down. That's the trickle down part. We're going to trickle down into the local communities, into the other 8 regional planning commissions. What you have is a centralized government making a centralized plan that already have goals and outcomes determined. What they're going to do is they're wiggling things around to make it feel as though your input is going to have some great effect on this when they've already developed a plan. This plan is already developed. I'll say this, is the Constitution of New Hampshire guarantees us under the Bill of Rights in Article 2, the citizens, not the towns, and not the state, and not the federal government, but the citizens, that's the trickle-up part of government, their rights to own and preserve and protect their land. They have property rights. The problem is when you have the federal government come down on it, it's a heavy weight. We had an instance over in Henniker, the gentleman here at his farm, who was nearly put out of business, and spent a ton of money trying to defend himself against a business he had run for 30-some years. That's what happens when you have an overweighted, top-heavy bureaucracy. And what will happen is you will find under the Strafford County Planning Commission that you will lose authority. It's a natural reaction of what will come down when the federal government gets their hooks in your local community. That's the only reason this is happening. And what will happen is the carrot is the money. There'll be money, and there'll be lots of talks. Regional planners, planning commissioners will be invited to meetings around the country, and they'll all feel hoorah, hoorah when they come out of those meetings because they've learned stuff and they've got their packets of information. But I would just warn you that your obligation is to the citizens of New Hampshire, to the property owners. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
I have a question.
I'm sorry,
Question?
Victoria. Pardon?
I had a question for him.
Oh, Jerry?
Sir.
Can you come back for me? We have a question for you.
Well, hardly for me to deny the chair.
Okay.
I got the rules
Victoria.
straight.
I know that that's the theory, that there's something from the federal government that's behind all of this. But what is your proof? Because Cynthia, she outlined how this truly is a bottom-up approach to planning. It's in the state statute to do a regional master plan, and it's totally viable.
I agree with that, and I don't have a problem with the regional
Jerry,
master plan.
this way.
Mr. Chair.
This way.
Sorry.
Mr. Chair, I do not have a problem with a regional planning commission. There's not a problem with that. But I would like the region to be contained to Strafford County for Strafford County. And the proof of that is that the money is flowing from Washington. I forgot how many millions of dollars went to Nashua when they signed on. They had to sign on to an agreement. They made a contract. There were millions of dollars involved in that, which went to a lot of areas. I think UNH even got some of that money. What happens is, because UNH was doing the PR for this, is what happens with that money is then Nashua can dole out money to, say, Strafford County Regional Planning for whatever, investigations of our bus lines or whatever happens, whatever those terms are, is that money trickles down. I know government well enough to know if there's money there, they'll sell their soul for it. And we're victims of that in our country right now. And it's not that the merits of the regional planning districts are bad or commissions are bad. I don't say that whatsoever. I did multi-level planning out west in California, Los Angeles, for thousands of homes out there. But I do remember having some run-ins with HUD on it. And in the middle of nice areas, they would put HUD projects in there, and the crime rate would go through the roof. The issue is that the regional planning, Strafford County is a regional planning district for a reason, because it's for Strafford County. It's not for Washington, D.C. And when the money comes down from Washington, D.C., it will have effect. That effect is coming through Nashua. The federal government is using Nashua for a front man. If you talk to one of these police officers that are sitting back, we've got 3 of them, and I bet one of them has run a drug buster too. And they go to the little guy on the street to find out where he got what he got, then they run up that chain because they want to find out where the source was. You do this very same thing with this plan, and you end up right in Washington, D.C. And that's a problem. We are in that live free or die state. People come here because they love their freedom, they love their property rights, and they don't want to give that away to Washington. And I don't really think most people in America do. So I hope I answered the question, and if there's another, I would be more than happy to answer that.
Any other questions? Mr. Lemus. Okay, Jerry, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Okay, the young lady with a dark...
I just...
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. One moment, please. Did you want to answer that?
Just one part. For the record, no plan is developed at this point in time for the Strafford Regional Planning Commission master plan. The only plan that exists is this one that we did in 2004, that you as the commission adopted. This is the plan that exists now. So there is a plan, but as for the one that we're working on with the Granite State Future, there is no plan in existence right now. Thank you. So this is our regional plan.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Yep.
Okay, young lady. Sorry.
Good evening. My name is Robin Mower. I live in Durham. And I'd like to read a brief note and then make a comment as a result of my observations this evening. I'm speaking tonight as a resident of Durham, but I also happen to be a town councilor. And I'm active on other boards and committees, several of which have received help of one form or another from the commission, as has the town as a whole. I'd like to recognize 2 roles the commission plays. It amplifies Durham's voice, empowering our participation at a regional level in the conversation about issues that go beyond our immediate isolated needs. And it helps us better implement our plans by providing expertise we lack. No community alone could possibly address the kinds of challenges we each have begun to face that arise from circumstances shared by all of us. Increasingly frequent extreme weather events, population changes, the economic recession, to name just a few. Durham relies on the Commission to keep us in the know about what is happening in the region beyond our town boundaries that might affect us and about ways it is helping communities coordinate to address these challenges together. By tradition, Durham seems to be a vocal community, which means that we are never at a loss for suggestions from residents. Town staff and community boards listen to them. Boards and committees have frequently been the beneficiaries of volunteers' expertise. In the end, however, that often is just not enough. We sometimes simply need professional expertise lacking in our small staff and volunteer base. We also sometimes need the clout that comes from joining our voices with other communities. We are a small town with unique demands placed on us. That means we sometimes face challenges that go well beyond our own means to address. I'm sure that is a situation that sounds familiar to many of you. We therefore count on the Commission to listen to us and to help implement our plans. Membership has been a good deal for Durham. So after listening to the presentation on the Granite State Future and questions from the public, I'd like to make an observation and a suggestion to other members of the public. I grew up in Durham, but recently lived in New York City for several decades. I returned to Durham and almost immediately threw myself into town issues, starting with helping to reduce the speed limit in our family neighborhood. It amazes me at how easy it is to make your voice heard in New Hampshire. That is not the case in New York City. If you want to participate in planning issues, step up and contribute. But by all means, volunteer in your own town. That's where your voice will be heard, and you can build up in that way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Yes.
I'm Wayne Burton from Durham. For the record, Robin, have I ever appeared in front of this town council in Durham to do an update on what this group has been doing?
Absolutely.
Secondly, we just did a plan for, can I ask you a question? We did a plan for 108, which crosses...
The Scenic Byway?
Scenic Byway crosses Durham, Newmarket, goes down to Exeter. Could that plan ever have been done by anyone other than a regional planning agency?
Absolutely not, and we have such support for that stretch of the of 108. We are very much looking forward to that working out.
One further question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Did at any time the federal government tell us how we would do that planning process?
Absolutely not. We have a really vocal local group, and they will speak up and would not accept somebody telling us from the top down.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next speaker. Sir. Please state your name and the town you represent.
Hi, my name's Warren Kindler, and I live in Epping, and I have the family here in Rochester as well. Just a quick note, completion of work program, again, that is only the master plan. When you're talking about a completion of work program, there's just no application of the plan after it's completed. It's just a for the record plan. Is that correct? Is that when they say work program? I just didn't want to get the depth. A lot of these words are very confusing and or have other meanings than lay people understand. So that's why I'm asking.
Cynthia, can you address that question?
So the question is, and I think I've heard it from several people tonight, about whether there will be any implementation.
No, not directly. No, just what is the definition of the work program? I mean, completion of work program. So is that just the completion of the master plan? Is that the same terms? Is that the same definition with different words?
The completion of the work program is the completion of the master plan and adoption by the full commission in 2015.
Okay, and adoption means just accepting it, that it's done and complete. Okay.
So I think tonight I talked about a work plan, which sometimes in a contract is called your scope of work, and it outlines all the activities and products and the timeline in which you're going to deliver those. So the completion of that work plan, or otherwise called a scope of work, would be exactly as Matt said, when this comes to the commission, when it comes to the commission and they have a public hearing and consider it and listen to the comments and the responses and make a decision about adopting or not.
Oh, okay, it's again 3 different words to describe the same thing, so it gets a little confusing.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I can understand.
You have anything else you'd like to say?
Yeah, I have 2 others quickly.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Visions that don't fit. That was mentioned, and who determines what visions don't fit and why they don't fit? Not that they would be good. A lot of good, and that's some random ideas are not necessarily good ones or democratic. So I just wanted to give it up. I heard that. This question about
who makes that determination
of which ideas that fit or don't fit.
Okay, okay, Cynthia.
So right now there's several statewide committees that are meeting, and that's the statewide technical advisory committee, and there's 5 or 6 of them, and they're collecting the data and the information and looking at, in the world of housing, what are the plans that exist? What are the plans that exist in New Hampshire, and what do they share in common? What are their commonalities? What are their strategies to achieve goals?
Sir, let her finish and then you can talk to me.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I'm deaf in this ear, so that's why I have to. Sorry.
Yeah, I understood that, so that's why I was speaking directly to you. So the role of the Regional Advisory Committee and the Regional Task Advisory Committee is to advise us whether certain language, certain principles are viable or appropriate for the Strafford region. So Nashua and Manchester are very different than Strafford. You know, they have one major city, we have 3 smaller cities, very viable cities, very vibrant. So what may fit in Manchester may not fit over here at all. And it's the role of the regional advisors, people from communities and volunteers, elected officials, whoever it is that volunteers to help us with this, you know, to look at housing and saying, this language isn't appropriate, this language is. So that's what that referred to.
Okay, and you said 5 or 6 different groups?
Yes, that was on the presentation.
Okay, and that presentation we can download from the web, correct?
6.
6, okay, great. That cleared that up, great.
Anything else?
No, that's all.
Good, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, who else wishes to speak? Yes, young lady.
I've already
Yeah,
spoken.
you, yes. Yes, you.
All right, I've already spoken up.
I know.
Oh, okay, good.
We're going around again.
Oh, great. Okay. We appreciate that, thank you.
Good, all right, good. I was wondering if any
By the way,
of...
just give your name and town again. for the record.
Okay, Martha Tidcombe, Salem, New Hampshire. I was wondering if any of you have done, or if you know of anyone else who has done a cost-benefit analysis.
Cost-benefit analysis.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask in relationship to what?
Can you go into a little more definition of
Yes,
of
please.
your cost-benefit analysis in
Sure.
regards to?
Sure. Where's the money coming from? And when the grant money runs out, how much is it going to cost the taxpayers? How much are developers going to make? How much are contractors going to make? And how much is it going to benefit the taxpayers who don't even know that this is going on? I'm sure most people don't. So they really haven't had the opportunity as residents or citizens of New Hampshire to give their input, because, you know, we have local government, and I just wanted to know the taxpayers, how is it going to benefit them? And do they even know how it's going to benefit them? And how much is going to go to developers and contractors? And also, are there any executive orders, or has the Governor's Council in any way been involved in any of this? Or what's the overall plan? What's the overall cost-benefit analysis? And who's all connected to all of this? Because this is new to me, and I'm a resident, and I know some of you might think it's funny, and I don't think it's funny. My ancestors fought along George Washington. They were from Newburyport, Mass. They risked their lives, they risked their fortunes, they risked their sacred honor. And I do not think it's funny, Mr. Chairman. People from around the world come to this country for freedom and for local government and for democracy and for the people to rule. To me, I think you're all wonderful people. I know you're all good Americans, and I don't want to say anything bad. But this seems to me like it's collective. It's tell me it's not. Tell me this is not collective.
It's not.
Okay, fine. Then what's the cost-benefit analysis? What are the people getting out of it? What are developers getting out of it? What are the politicians getting out of it? And who's connected to all of this? Please, I'm serious.
That is okay, the scope of that question is enormous. You know, you're talking about many aspects of the program I personally don't have any information on. And I don't know if, Cynthia, are you able to discuss that within the framework of tonight's meeting, or do you want to develop a response to that and get it out to the commission and to this young lady?
And I'm willing to wait, ma'am. I think you've been wonderful, and I think you've all been wonderful. I don't mean to insult anybody. I didn't. That was not my intention.
Let's hear the response.
I don't want anybody to be upset here tonight.
Okay, thank
This
you.
should be positive, and we should be listening carefully.
And I take
to
it that
each
way.
other. Yeah.
Miss?
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
A cost-benefit analysis, normally we do connect it with a project that would involve, today I was working with Mark, who works on transportation. It's not a cost-benefit analysis, but we're tracking through projects in the transportation plan and what are the costs going to be and whether we have enough money. That's not a cost-benefit analysis, but that's the type of we do fiscal constraints to ensure that enough money will be in place for projects to be done when they're planned to be done by the state or by local entities or a private entity. So a cost-benefit analysis is something we don't normally do, but I have done them in the past, so I'm aware of how to do them, but it's not something associated with a planning document with this type of process. But as to the relationship to who is going to benefit from this, I hope that all of the citizens, my goal is that all of the citizens and the businesses of this region will benefit from this plan and having the opportunity to work together. So, you know, I saw an email today, I'm pointing to Mark because the last email I did was a problem in one of our communities about payment for an infrastructure that needed replacing, and the town came to us and asked us to work with one of the state agencies to make sure that this project was done. And Mark had a conversation with the state agency, and now he's going to work with the town to help resolve the situation so everyone understands how the process will happen and how monies will be paid and in what time frame and in what amounts, so everyone understands what the agreement is. So that is a lot of the work that we do, is just helping people to understand financial processes and what their obligations are and how to make it work and be successful. Because if this project is fixed, then people's commutes during the day are going to be better and safer. And that makes us happy, and it makes everyone who's going to work and lives in the area feel better when they can have a reduction in their commute time or have a safer road to pass the job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, anyone else? Yes, ma'am. The salmon, is that salmon color?
I don't know, orange, coral.
Okay, again,
Thank you,
state your
Chairman.
name and your town.
I have,
Name and town?
oh, I'm sorry, Nancy Kindler, Epping, New Hampshire. I spoke earlier, as you know.
Right.
A couple of questions that I have are, at this time in this country, where most people are having such a tough time, unemployment rate is very high, one of the highest ever. Half the country's living
Chair,
on...
can we have a point of order, a little chattering going on? You can't hear what the lady's saying.
Okay.
You can't hear what I'm saying?
A little louder.
We'd like to hear the people talking in the background.
My name is Nancy Kindler, I live in Epping. And in this time, in this country, I can't look at you and speak to them, so I'll...
Speak over this gentleman's direction.
There was a different conversation going on.
We had other conversations taking place.
Oh, I apologize.
What you were
I was just saying, with this time in this country, as bad as things are, with the economy as bad as it is, and people are struggling to pay for oil, for food, for clothing, so on and so forth, and there is a point that's related to this. We're talking about Medusa's head. As you mentioned earlier, this project is too huge to give that kind of information with the analysis. Yes, it is. This is one of the biggest projects ever. It's going on across the country from California to Maine. It's not just here in New Hampshire. It's nationwide. And it's been in the planning for many, many years. This didn't happen overnight. This part of it is here right now. And if I'm following what's been going on correctly here in New Hampshire, it's been going on for a little while, and I guess there's a 2.5-year goal. It's hard for me to understand, where is all this money going to come from, if not the backs of the tax-paying citizens of New Hampshire and other places here in this country. We're taxed enough already. We are having a rough time in this country as it is. China owns us just about. And we're talking about all these dreams and these visions. It's wonderful. Yes, we would like to have all these beautiful things before us that we're looking at and talking about. We're talking about doing a lot more now than I think ever in the state of New Hampshire, at a time when we're really economically not doing very well. And people are very worried, scared to death about what this is doing. I hear people say they're just doing it right underneath us. They don't care, they're not listening to us. And I'm telling you what other people are saying. And I have to agree. There is a far-reaching, it's like tentacles. My husband described it. He said, honey, it's like Medusa's head. It's so intricate, so involved with so many, we've got a file box full of paperwork just from going to 4 or 5 meetings. And in every town, in every city, and every of the 9 regional planning commissions, it's the Granite State Future, or the Granite State Business Future, or the 108 Scenic Byway. Exeter calls it something different. If it is the Granite State Future for New Hampshire, why isn't it all the same name? Why can't it all be, but it throws you off. I would just like to ask everybody here to really do your homework, get all the stuff, look on the internet, and educate. Read all you can, please, because you're going to be decision makers. Thank you. Yes.
Okay. Let's get Victoria first, and I'll get you, Michelle.
I started hearing that there was all these tentacles reaching into everything, and
yes.
I started doing research online.
Okay.
And I saw that the same information was making its way around the state, slowly but surely. New Hampshire is making its way around the country. And I would say to you, because this is really important, what we're doing here, regional planning is really important stuff for the future of New Hampshire. I would really appreciate it if you all would do research beyond this limited world of research that you're doing. It's because it's all, to me, it's a conspiracy.
What is your name, dear?
Victoria Parmalee.
Victoria, I was a 2-term zoning board member in Wakefield, and I could go on and on and on about my other bodies that I've held in the state.
Sure.
And I'm not, there is no conspiracy theory. There is no conspiracy
over each other here.
Just saying, it's about research.
Well, I take that as an insult. I'm an intelligent
Well, I take it as
woman.
an
Okay, wait a minute. Okay.
Thank you.
We
One
shouldn't
moment.
do that. We shouldn't do
No,
that.
Michelle.
that's okay.
All right, I work on the comprehensive economic development strategy, and one of the things I do is look at data. And New Hampshire is doing better than the rest of the country. For instance, from the 2011 New Hampshire employment security, the Strafford Regional Planning Commission region's average for unemployment was 4.9%. In the state of New Hampshire, we're 5.2%, compared to the United States at 9.0%. This year, for foreclosure data, we are half of what we were last year, at 176 in Strafford County, which is not the same as the Strafford-Seds region. Last year in Strafford County, there was 374 foreclosures. So I would say that we are doing better as the rest of the nation.
I agree with you, as always, and I want to keep it that way.
Okay, tell you what, there's a couple of people who want to speak. You're welcome to come back.
Nope.
Okay, don't leave though.
Thank you. I like your humor. A
Okay,
little
gentleman
levity
with
is good.
Okay, gentleman with the head on in the back. Your name and town, please.
Good evening. My name is David Cope. I'm a Rochester resident. I don't know a lot about this Granite State Futures. I'm pretty new to it, so I'm learning as I go, and it's quite an elaborate thing here. And I can see why it's been started since 1969. You guys have had many, many years to create what you have now. The thing that I'm kind of troubled is I almost feel like New Hampshire is being force-fed this. Now, when I look at this map, I see that New Hampshire is broken down in different regions, counties, and so forth. How do you guys decide? Because to me, it feels like you guys are bringing this out to every community in New Hampshire as the answer to everybody's problems, whether it be transportation, economics, land use. So how do you decide as you go through communities which community you should or shouldn't be putting this through? How do you decide?
Good question. Okay, we'll have Cynthia give the answer. To the chair, Cynthia.
Yes, I go to the chair. I was trying to remember the response to the other person's question. So how do we just, could you ask him to state it again?
Okay, could you restate the question?
Yes. How do you decide what communities do not want this type of vision implemented in their community?
We try to be inclusive.
You're looking to, maybe you want me to paraphrase it?
Yes.
Okay, he's looking for what guidelines do you use to look at a community and say whether or not a specific effort on the part of that's contained within Granite State Future is going to fit that community and whether or not the community wants it?
Yes.
Communities vote on it.
Is it be good for that community? How do you make that determination?
There's two different questions here. One question is whether a community wants to be actively involved in the process. And the other question is, do we collect the data and the information for every community? The question is, yes, we collect the information for every community. So we're inclusive in the sense of looking at all of the master plans, from every single community and the University of New Hampshire, and analyzing those and taking the information up, just as Michelle was talking about the foreclosure rates on individual towns, all of that type of data and demographics, and we collect all of that information from all of the communities and combine that together. Whether a town wants to participate in the process and advise us as to what their priorities are, that's their choice to do that or not.
Okay.
We're hopeful that everyone will want to participate in it.
Okay. So with that said, I did attend a city council meeting where this was presented to the city council, and it was voted down. And this was in Rochester. So, do you guys, I feel like is that it for the city of Rochester? Are you going to continue to try to implement different avenues of this program against the will?
You don't, Cynthia, do you implement anything, or do you gather information?
I've been trying to explain how we implement, and I guess I haven't been successful. A lot of our implementation is in facilitating and collaborating, just as Michelle said in the comprehensive economic development. A lot of implementation comes down to effective communication, and that's what we try to be. We try to listen to situations and issues and concerns, and to hear what people are saying, and when they request us to speak to another party, that's what we do. So, do we implement? We help communities implement. A lot of what we do is behind the scenes aspect, because our goal is that the towns and cities and agencies of this state will implement and be successful in achieving their goals. Like, I don't mean to point out to you, Brian, but the bridge connecting Somersworth and Berwick, we've been working with you and the DOT and the Maine DOT for 10 years on that project, and it's finally moving forward and is going to be constructed. So do we do implementation? Yes, we do, in following the towns and the cities and helping them implement their projects and make sure that everything's moving forward and in alignment, and all of the I's are, the T's are dotted and the I's are dotted and yada, yada, yada. And that's what we do, and most of it is behind the scenes. So the second part was, are we going to include Rochester in this plan? Yes, we are. We're going to include them in the plan, in the fact that we're going to look at your master plan and analyze it and include it in our documents so that we have an inclusive discussion of what the policies and goals are within our region. And yes, we'll do that, and that, just like Michelle read off that data, we'll collect the data for Rochester just like we collect it for everyone else, because we have other projects besides the Granite State Future that we're working on with communities, like in transportation planning and economic development and hazard mitigation. Kyle just finished up the hazard mitigation this summer with Rochester, and all of those projects also have collections and compiling of policies and strategies for achieving goals and actual products that they want to implement. And so it's in the scope and depth of our work that we see Rochester City Council were respectful of the decision that they made, but at the same time, we're collecting this data and information and analyzing it for other projects in the city that they still want us to be involved with. And so we want to be respectful, but at the same time, we understand the dimensions of a community where other areas they do want us still to be involved. And so we're doing a balancing act here, and we're trying to do it to the best of our abilities and to be respectful at the same time.
Thank you, Cynthia. Is there another comment from the commission? Okay.
And just one last real quick thing. Where can I find, is it on your website where I can find some of the projects that you guys are currently involved, say, within Rochester?
Well, next Tuesday, if you're not doing anything, I'm actually doing a presentation to the Rochester City Council, and we've put together a packet that contains information on the Granite State Future and also on the other projects, some of them that I just mentioned, like the culvert assessments and access management, broadband, etc. And so, I encourage you to come to the meeting so the councilors can hear your thoughts and perspectives as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, before I get back to you, Jerry, the young lady back there in the checkered shirt.
Michelle Paradiso, Rochester. First, congratulations on your re-election, though.
I didn't run.
Oh,
She didn't run.
Who ran? I thought you did too. I just heard Cynthia say that they're going to be making a presentation to the Rochester City Council on Tuesday about Granite State Future.
Yes. Can you address that, Cynthia?
I received an invitation from the deputy mayor to attend the meeting in discussion with the mayor and the city manager, and to provide an update on what activities Strafford Regional Planning Commission is currently involved with.
Well, that was not Granite State Future that I just heard her say.
Yes, I did say that, ma'am.
Okay, point of clarification here. Is Granite State Future an item that will be discussed?
I don't know.
Pardon?
I put the information in the packet about the frequently asked questions about the Granite State Future because I wasn't present at the meeting of the City Council, and this frequently asked questions wasn't available at the time that there was a presentation, so I just did it for outreach and to provide additional information in case anyone had any questions about it. I am not trying to change the mind of the Rochester City Council about their decision. I respect that. I'm just trying to provide some additional information for no purpose other than education.
Well, the Rochester deputy mayor happened to be one of those that voted in favor of it, when a large majority of the people of Rochester are not in favor of social engineering run by the Department of Transportation, the EPA, and HUD. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's go to Mr. DeLemus back there.
Jerry DeLemus, Rochester, New Hampshire. I hadn't intended on saying anything else. I thought I pretty well covered it, but I just wanted to address a couple of things, Mr. Chair, that was, I believe, Cynthia who did the first presentation, when she was talking about the, no. Michelle, I am so sorry. I'm bad with names. When Michelle quoted the unemployment numbers following Mrs. Kindler's statement about the taxes and the problems that we're having economically, is the government, in their wisdom, changed the unemployment reporting from the U6 to U3 in the 80s. So actually the unemployment numbers are about twice whatever you hear reported by the federal government. That's the reality of it. And I'll tell you, is when you got people working right now on jobs that are underemployed, that are making $8 or $9 an hour with no health care because they've lost their health care due to the recession, and a lot of it's a burden from the federal government because part of this recession came down from them, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, I'd say. The issue is, as Mrs. Kendler was saying, is that there's a funding problem. Now, this is being funded through, a lot of it through HUD. I know Matt's getting part of his pay over here, who spoke, is coming down through HUD. It's funneling its way down. The problem being, who cares if the economy, so if the economy's good, unemployment isn't so bad in New Hampshire, spend more money? Is that what I heard? I'm not quite sure, because that's not like justification to an answer that Mrs. Kindler put forth about a bad economy. And I'm a business owner. I had to lay off 25 people in this recession. I've run a multi-million-dollar business for decades. And I tell you, the economy isn't good. And it's fine and dandy. I went down to Washington, D.C. I've been down there a number of times. I talked to them down there. I was talking to a couple waitresses down there. They had no idea there was a recession in 2010 because it hadn't hit Washington. The issue is they are out of touch with the local communities. And that's the problem. I think that's part of the fear of us signing onto a large program such as this, is because it's top-heavy. And the people who will, in fact, be pushing the orders down through HUD, DOT, and EPA, push them down through Nashua, are out of touch with the people sitting in these chairs, and probably many of you as well, or your family members. I'm sure everybody here has had family members who are laid off, their COLAs on Social Security weren't getting increased. People are having a hard time. They can't afford more property taxes, that's certain, especially for those on fixed incomes. And all the money that like Matt's getting and that's coming down from HUD, all those that manna from heaven, which we'll call Washington, is coming out of your pockets. It's coming out of your kids' and your grandkids' pockets. It's not coming from Washington. They're merely funneling it, laundering your money back to you with conditions. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Cynthia.
Yes, I would just like to say that one of the goals that Michelle talked about this evening in the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy is to address the issue that we have about the change in the manufacturing jobs that were located in Strafford County. I came here in '99 and we were in the middle of the tech boom, and then we had the bust in that, and just right after that in New Hampshire we lost a lot of manufacturing jobs, over several thousand in this region, and the replacement jobs that a lot of people got from that were lower paying jobs, just like our speaker just said. So what the economic development strategy is looking at is the ramp-up program, starting over at the Lilac Plaza, and the investments being made by the city and private enterprise in the Rochester Business Park to help people develop jobs that are going to be at income similar to what was here in the region in the 2000s before we lost all of these manufacturing jobs. So this is a great opportunity for our region, and we have several hundred jobs committed through these companies that are moving here, and we have training that's going to be made available for people who work in this region, also for people who work over in Maine just across the border who shop in this region and also work in this region, that they too can benefit from this. So I think we're in agreement that we all want to see people have better opportunities for themselves and their families.
Thank you, Cynthia. Any other comments from the commission? Okay, let's see, who hasn't spoken yet? Anybody that hasn't spoken? Okay, well, this gentleman in the plaid jacket. Please stand, I get that way too when I've been sitting too long. Okay, your name and the town you represent.
My name is Robert Knowles. I live in Rochester. I've lived here for a number of years. I've never been involved with politics in Rochester, but I have some questions, a couple of questions. I'm aware of the Regional Planning Agency. I was a town's representative from the town of Hudson to the Metropolitan Area Planning Council in Boston. I served 7 years on a planning board and the same amount of time on a conservation district and conservation commission. I don't know a lot about Strafford County's Regional Planning Agency, but I'm aware of planning agencies and what they do. And the towns coordinate the various projects. You should get more funding for regional projects, which I think is a benefit to all the communities. And I wanted to ask if there was any specific projects that have been approved in Strafford County, or are you still in the data collection mode? That's kind of what I felt was going on here. And I know there's all various different opinions about whether we should belong, the city of Rochester should belong to a planning council. I generally believe in what you do, regional planning agencies do, in coordination with the towns. There's more funding available for, rather than a single town, a city or town, doing a project on their own. I just want to ask if there's any, has there been any approved projects in Strafford County at all? Are we in that stage or not?
So you were part of the Boston Metro.
I have a hard time hearing.
So you were part of the Boston Metropolitan Planning Organization.
I didn't work for them.
But you were part of it. You were.
I was a representative of the town of Hudson.
Yes.
For a period of time.
So part of what we do, not the Granite State Future, but what we do, Mark and Dan full-time work on the Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is focused on projects. So the number one priority in our region for projects is the Little Bay Bridges, the Newington-Dover project. So that is underway, and they're now adding the new 4 lanes in and the new, and then they'll renovate the other side and fix up on either side of Newington and Dover. So is that a project that's being implemented? Yes, it is, and it comes through that process that you understand that that you go through to track all of the projects in your region. The Spalding Turnpike improvements was the number 2 priority project in our region. Another project in our region was the Coast Bus Service. They just doubled the service in the commute hours. That was also a project on our list of priority, and that is now underway. So when you talk about implementations of projects, when you look at the transportation planning aspect of it, which you're aware of, yes, we do have projects that are implemented. We have the hazard mitigation plan. I want to make this point. It's a little different than what you were asking, but we just finished the all hazards mitigation plan for the city of Rochester, and Kyle worked on that. And Bob Jaffin was a member of that committee as well. And the other plan we're doing is the comprehensive economic development that Michelle. So that's about economic development. So here's the way it works. If the city of Rochester doesn't have an adopted plan that fits within the requirements, they can't receive funding. Isn't that accurate? Yeah. So if they have a storm event, they're not eligible to receive funding. So that's a really big, important thing that we do to help a community be eligible to receive those fundings. The other thing is economic development. If we didn't have that plan in place, the city of Rochester couldn't request for the project that they put in for the sewer and water infrastructure increase on Salmon Falls to develop some new or an expanded businesses out on Route 125. So yes, there's that aspect of it, that in order to be eligible to receive funding, you need to have these plans in place. And that's part and parcel, and one of the most important things we do to make that implementation happen is we make sure the plans are in place and then that the municipality adopts it so that they're eligible.
But there's many other disciplines besides transportation you're talking about, right?
Yes, yes.
So a community like Rochester, aren't they required to meet HUD requirements with all kinds of other disciplines? Like the community has to meet certain standards in order to receive funding? Is this true?
Mr. Chairman, we're not directly involved with housing and urban development on what people think about as housing aspects. And there is a housing authority in the city of Rochester, and we just don't cross and do that type of work. Right. That's not within our task.
Gotcha. Anything further?
Well, I guess I want to say a couple more things, but let me think here.
You want us to go around and then get you? You want us to go around and we'll get you again?
Sure. Oh, that's all right. Somebody else can speak.
Get your thoughts together. We'll just answer a couple more questions. We'll call you again. Okay?
Yeah, I have a gut feeling that there's a lot of listening to other people. People I even know here.
What I'm saying is, why don't you, take your seat, get your thoughts together on any other questions, and we'll come around to you again.
Okay.
Okay.
That's fine. Thank you.
There's two other people who want to have their hands up back there.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question, please?
Yes.
At what time do you intend to end the meeting? It's 9:45.
Unless you want to close it, you can always make a motion. We're trying to hear everybody's, comments and their concerns.
So you do not have a time that you're going to close the meeting?
Last time we were here till about 10:10, 10:30. I think that was it last time.
10:15.
So.
10:15?
Yeah. You may not go that far, but I only see two more hands up in this.
Can you ask people, maybe, sir, if they might ask to confine their comments, so they don't have to speak
I think
twice?
the way it would work is if you want to make a motion, but that's.
Thank you for your fairness.
Okay. Mac, did you have a? Too long sitting down, huh? I said too long sitting down.
Thank you for having me again. My name is Matt Kittredge from Rochester, resident of 30 years. I alluded to a principle called spontaneous organization that was championed by John Stossel. You see it all around you in nature. No planning commissions required. But also not much sentimentality if you're not cutting the mustard. One of the things about top-down government that is so difficult is that you're dealing with a lot of problems with communication. All communication is attenuated with distance. Doesn't matter whether it's you're yelling across the street to somebody. It doesn't matter whether it's a telephone call. And every time there's a nexus point where the communication is passed from one person to another, there is some loss of information and there's some addition of information. Now, when people build something as complex as a space shuttle with 300,000 working parts and you want them all to work and stay attached, you go for what they call military spec. It's not 99.9%, it's 99.99999 and 9. 7 nines, they call it. In 137 launches, we've lost 2 of them. Now, that's a very high reliability in each of the components. If you took a toaster that had just 10 simple components, the shell to hold things together, the core to carry the electricity, the plug that goes into the wall, the spring, the platform, the lever, and so forth, and every one of them work 90% of the time. What is your chances of getting a piece of toast out of that toaster? Well, it isn't 90%. It's 0.9 raised to the 10th power. That's about 15%. This applies to us trying to implement policy from the top down. And then you're facing another problem, attenuation through time. Things change. And you just cannot keep track of all the balls you're trying to juggle in the air. This is why when governments have tried to use central planning, except for major supervision of projects, infrastructure like power systems and sewer systems and roads, which cannot be duplicated, they failed. And it isn't because the people trying to do it were badly intentioned or stupid, but they always fail, and they fail badly even in this country. Now, I would like to make this plea. You're talking about bottom-up. I celebrate that. I really do. You're getting the power of spontaneous organization working for this project and these plans. And you are the repository of some very useful and important information the citizenry should know. And sitting behind me is John Nolan from the Rochester Times. And he has a very strong social conscience, and he does like to carry stuff forward. I suggest you talk to him and put together a series of essays about various aspects of what you've learned in Strafford County and where we should, as a city or as a county, as voluntary organizations, step in.
Mac.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there any of us, is there, yes, ma'am, in the Salmon sweater.
Any questions? Okay, good.
Again, give your name and your town.
Nancy Kindler, Epping. And I want to thank everybody here for what you are doing, the hard work you're putting in. Everybody's got to do a job, and I appreciate it. And a lot of the things that have been said tonight are things that I was going to say. I have a couple of questions. The American Planning Association. I would like to know if what we've been told by different groups in different towns is the regional planning associations in New Hampshire under the American Planning Association, which I believe I've been told is a nonprofit private organization. Is that correct?
So the American Planning Association has chapters, and there's a Northern New England chapter.
I just want to know if you're part of it.
I am a member of the American Planning Association, and I also am a certified planner by the American Institute of Certified Planners. So I took a test and passed, and I have been certified since 1999, and I follow a professional code of ethics, which is about 4 or 5 pages long, and I take it very seriously, and about twice a year I review my code of ethics and make sure that I'm tracking it.
Oh, Cynthia, I'm not questioning
Oh, I
your,
know.
your credibility, honey.
Miss.
I mean, I'm sorry. I'm not questioning her credibility.
Okay.
I was just making a point that this is a nonprofit private organization, which is the umbrella for the regional planning associations throughout the country, as far as I know. That was the clarification I was trying to get.
No.
If I've been told wrong, that's what I wanted to find out.
No, I said I am a member. It's an individual basis. They have individuals who live in northern New England associate through, they're called chapters. So I'm a member of the American Planning Association. I'm also a member of the Northern New England chapter of the American Planning Association, and I personally am a certified planner.
Thank you. Chairman Vita, the reason I ask that is that these different cities and towns that I'm going to, and going to different meetings and asking different questions, are you the director of, or the chair?
Yes.
You, okay. Most every director is a member and belongs to the American Planning Association. So it seems there's a connection. I don't know. Anyway, another question that I have is you mentioned earlier about the hazard mitigation plan.
Excuse
Oh,
me.
yes.
Mr. Chairman, the American Planning Association is a professional association. Just like I'm
Yes, it
looking
is.
over at Tony, he's probably a member of an association for attorneys and lawyers, and sitting next to you is Wayne, and he's probably a member of an association of
Community college president.
I understand.
Yeah,
and
We're getting, I think we're losing the focus on this.
I understand,
Okay.
and I know all that, but there's a reason.
The next question.
I'll go back, well, I want to go back to that, since she brought it back, if you don't mind. We elect or appoint people to planning boards in the cities and towns in New Hampshire. It's been that way, as far as I know, going way back. So we have in each town and each city a planning board that's been doing the planning right along. And now comes, the Rockingham Planning Association in my area. We were doing everything on our own up until a couple of weeks ago. We've planned everything in Epping, and now we pay dues, and after January 1st, they're going to help us. We don't really need their help. It was a, 3-2 vote that they decided to take the dues. But anyway, I was just trying to say that the planning departments are appointed or elected. Now we have a nonprofit organization that has members from the American Planning Association that are directors of each of the regional planning organizations. My next question. You mentioned something about the hazard mitigation plan, and I guess Kyle and Bob Jaffin are working on those. Would there by any chance be any relation to waste management closure or something to do with that project? Okay, I'm glad to hear that. So that has no relation. Another question I have.
You could,
How
Mr.
about
Chairman.
addressing the question to the chair?
Oh,
Mr. Chairman,
Pardon?
she could look on our website, and we have a hazard mitigation section.
Okay. All right. A lot of people throughout the state are concerned with the Granite State Future project and the Water Sustainability Commission project, water conservation, that there is something, I want to ask if there's any relation to a lot of people being concerned that they're buying up rights along rivers, lakes. I know because it's right down the street from me. They bought the rights to the river, the Lamprey River. That's a long story. People are concerned that it's not our water if we own a well, that we're going to have a meter put on our well. Can this be addressed, that New Hampshire citizens should not be concerned that they may have to pay for water if they own their own wells?
Does anybody have any? That may be a,
It's related to the conservation of water with this project.
Right, and we're a water-rich state, as you probably know, but, there is a Governor's Commission on Water Sustainability.
Right.
And I don't know if that's within the purview of but if somebody wants to answer that, it's...
I think it is, because they address the water in all the stuff she was showing us and on the website. There's a lot of water-related issues.
Does anybody wish to answer that question?
I think you gave the right answer in the first place.
Well, I think both of you sit on the Cocheco Local Advisory Committee, so
It's a, I'm not too sure that you're going to get a crisp
Is it
answer on that.
is it
We'll research it for you.
Okay. If you don't know the answer, that's fine with me.
I don't personally, I don't see anybody here that...
I just want to know if anybody here has an
raised
answer.
their hand on this one, so...
But it's a big concern, because I have a well, and I don't want a meter on my well. This is my third antique home. One more question, and then I'll let someone else speak. The fact that the regional planning commissions are not elected or appointed, can we assume that whatever you do, you're not legally bound? It's just an advisory board?
Cynthia,
Is it-
So
right up your alley.
if you go to the section of the RSAs, the process is such. The planning board nominates commissioners to the commission, and the board of selectmen, the town council, or the city council appoints. So everyone who is a commissioner is an appointed official from their municipality.
Is that your question?
Okay, so my question would be, where you're the director of the Strafford Regional Planning Commission, if you advise, your capacity is advisory, you're not appointed or elected, right? So there's no legal bound, you're not, what you do is not legally binding, is it?
Advisory only.
Advisory only?
Advisory only.
Okay. That answers my
Mr.
question.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes.
I feel like we've circled a lot of the same points.
One moment.
I feel like we've circled a lot of the same points, and I'd like to adjourn the public forum.
I'll second that.
Period. Yes.
There's a motion on the floor to adjourn, or to actually close public comment.
Yes.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. What? Yeah. Okay, this is not a motion to adjourn, it's a motion to close public comment. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
Okay, so it's open to discussion. Is there any discussion?
I want to ask a question. He's got a question.
I'll
make a motion. I'll make a motion we adjourn.
He didn't get to speak.
He
didn't get to speak at all. He didn't get to speak.
I raised my hand to second the motion. I raised my hand to ask the question.
Okay, there is a, you have to move along on it.
Somebody moves to adjourn.
No, it's not a motion, no, it's a motion to close the citizens forum.
I just made
Okay, the motion has been made to close the citizens forum. Is there any further discussion from the commission? Since there's no further discussion, all those in favor of closing the citizens forum, please signify by saying aye.
Was that your
Opposed?
motion?
We are going to do a question.
I want to know what the motion was.
To close the citizens forum.
Yeah, the citizens forum.
Okay.
Cynthia, did we answer your question?
Yep.
Okay. Again, this will be a show of hands. All those in
Why didn't you
favor
ask me
of
about it?
closing the citizens forum portion of the meeting, please signify by saying aye. Raise their hands. I see 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 hands. 5, 6. Okay. Against closing the citizens portion of the meeting, please signify by raising your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The citizens portion of the meeting is closed.
That's complex.
That's life, man.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Cynthia.
Please, could you tell the person that did not have a chance to ask their question to email that to us or come into our office? We will be closed tomorrow and Monday, but we'll be open on Tuesday, and our email address, you can email me.
Cynthia, I'll do one better. I'll come to the next meeting.
Okay.
This is my first meeting.
Okay.
But I hear all kinds of rumors about the UN giving you people money. That's what I want to find out.
You have some good questions, I'm telling you.
Mr. Chairman, we
Yes.
have not received a penny from the United Nations.
Okay. Is there any other business to come before the commission this evening?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, is there a second?
Second.
It's not discussable. All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, we're out of here.
And then who seconded? I would like to make a comment. Thank you. Thank you, and this is the fairest one of these meetings I've been to in the state so far.
I have a question.
No, I'm serious.
I have a question.
You guys have done a good job.
Hey, Jim?
Do you know the rules
Wrapping up the meeting here.
Carol Sanders?
Sorry. Tell me about it. I'll tell you in a little while, okay?
Carol and Sandy.
How's Rick doing? He served on our says
Epsom. They're in Epsom.
Epsom. Okay. My mistake.
They both begin with E.
When you say we're on friends.
No, I was, I've been on several boards, and I've Wakefield. And do you know another person in Wakefield? Do you know architects? Hey, what can I say? Thank God.
I can't wait to see the article.
I don't know any higher than what the town there is no GLP for any state. A lot of what happened in this state that I did in Boston came out of the House Victory Act. They paid all up and get we said we were interested. They brought people 5, 6, 7 times. They kicked them somebody for some advertising. State jail. That is one of my biggest complaints.
This is Penn.
Well, there are a number of good ones. In most cases, we are.
Yeah, the town will pay them all, a lot of taxes will get that far. I said to one day, the town meeting, $8,000 will take good deal. You have to spend $5,000 in Middleton to come paying us. I've read the help. Taxes. It's ridiculous. Yeah, it was.
But the fact is, you close it to that
I'd love to sell them, actually, can't sell them right now. Yeah, well, that's what I'd love to hear. Someone get brought them.
Well, they're interested. As long as it's still that level of control, I'd give it to one group to the team to control that. It's not that complex.
So Steve, from Maryland, and you said you had some paperwork from town?
They said they were going to send it last Friday.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe we haven't gotten it yet. I haven't
She said it would be here on Monday.
I haven't gotten it yet.
I mean, I have a copy of it on my drive.
Well, you don't have to go and go get it. Just maybe remind them I haven't gotten it yet. And I am the one who gets the mail every day, so I haven't seen it
Because
yet.
they said it was going to go out last Friday.
Yeah. Oh, so someone will send you a meeting pack. Welcome pack. Did you get a meeting packet tonight?
No. Well, actually, Ed gave me one.
Okay, because it's got all the meetings in it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one's the next.
January 24th?
Yeah, but we also have policy committee meetings. And when you're a commissioner, you're automatically on our policy committee. And what I'll do is do you have like an email address or? You put it, that's the other one, never mind. Here, write down your email